ليلوم الخوف والكوابيس والخيانة، ليلوم الخوف والكوابيس والخيانة، نحنا قدامنا الصباح، نحنا قدامنا الصباح.
Hello everyone, and welcome to دامنا الصباح's Poetry for Sudan event. Before I begin, I'd like to acknowledge that this event is being hosted here in Burulu on Sovereign Wajak Noongar Boja, and that a lot of our participants are based in so-called Australia on unceded Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander lands. Damna Sabah pays our respects to elders past and present, and to all First Nations people across this continent. As a group of settler refugees, we extend our solidarity with First Nations people across the continent and acknowledge that the systems which have allowed us relative safety here in this colony are the same ones which create dispossession and oppression. We recognize that sovereignty was never ceded. This is and always will be Aboriginal land. So Damna Sabah is a cultural forum that's concerned with creative and cultural work and the edification of its intersections with civil political resistance in Sudan. This forum is committed to human rights issues and the effective role of the arts in politics and social change. Our next speaker is Dr. David Modi. David Modi was an adjunct senior lecturer in theatre at Murdoch University. He is a poet, playwright, actor, and director. His first book of poems, Ordinary Euphoria, was published in 2016. He is currently working on his second collection of poems and a new play, which I'm personally really excited for. He's written extensively on African literature. David will also read poems by two poets who aren't with us today, the poets Alim Abbas, Muhammad Noor, and Khalid Omar. Thank you so much, David.
Thanks. Thanks, Rafif. Thanks, Rafif, for inviting me. It's a real honor to be here. And like everyone else, I stand in solidarity with the people of Sudan. It's so hard to think about what people are going through there, but also what their loved ones are going through here in Australia. It's heartbreaking. I want to pay my respects to the Wujik people of the Noongar Nation and to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and also state that sovereignty was never ceded. The poem I'm going to read one poem of mine and then two much better poems by other people. The first poem I'm going to read is my own poem. It's called Because, and it's more of a meditation, and it's about me feeling quite helpless and useless in the face of so much happening in the world, and what role poetry has in that that sense of futility. Because poetry makes nothing happen, said Auden famously. And I don't know if that's right, but writing poems does seem pretty vain and useless somehow, like kneeling and weeping in the shore of a multitudinous ocean of suffering, and pushing off into the tide a makeshift crafty sailing boat made up of pretty words and shiny images. What are 20 lines of verse up against the vast and complex and awful mathematics of slaughter? All the bombed hospitals, the apartment towers shelled, sheltering children in blasted cellars, hiding and howling in tunnels. Each whole number lost forever in the cold count of casualty. What does it matter if body number 17 was in love with her classmate? If body number 5 dreamed of being a fashion designer in Paris? if body number 19 saw herself playing striker for Arsenal, if body number 7 was fighting for a free Sudan or Burma or Palestine, all so many washed away single tears in that sea of lost souls. But no, poetry must still be written and spoken aloud, even if it's only line scratches on walls with broken sticks, whispered like remembered prayers in the dark, while the roars of the negating shells boast of their Philistine triumph. Otherwise, what's the point? Who will remember the importance of the delicate dream, the fragile hope, the momentary transforming glimpse of God? So we push our little wordy boats out into the dark, insisting that it still matters, our offerings of mortal human beauty. Thanks.
David, I think the next poem is by Khalid Omar Ibrahim.
This is called Strength. And again, it's by Khalid Omar. I will not die here. I'm already dead there on the island at the turn of the descent, to fields of sorghum and thick heath, under the shadow of a cloud with a false promise of rain, where the strange birds dipped their beaks in ink and pecked my navel, and the night laid a secret need, spuriously veiling our needs with its lower name, and the moon revealed. Where the corners are a temptation with their shadows, the rest of the wishes vanished with no realization. And I remained confused in the core of time, engaged in the spacious space and simple public trees. I distribute my intention in every path, avoid, like an infection, the contemplations in leaving, shorten the distance between my steps and compulsion, between my sadness and feeling, between the lengths of my life and the beautiful stealth of death. In dust, stuck to the fringe of violent coincidence that forcibly kills the expectation, to dispel the illusions of visions and break the silence of the impossible. I shorten the distance between the returned echo and its opposite, in any deniable thing, above and beneath the magic flash, before the lightning, a moment of little distraction. Then, inevitably, in the blind spot, I down shorthand the range to say what hearts find in their beating and lean where they lean. And no matter how much this oppression must perish, I am not a martyr, not alone, and for this path, not the alternate deceased. I am already dead there, where the poets stopped the caravans of rhymes and presented me with a choice between the martyr or the homeless. So I asked my mother, what if I am so inclined to peace? I use my strength and choose superfluous word. Perhaps I will document the bitter anthem in our oral history like my father on the days of the deaf revolution during the reign of the Caliph, that known for bold iron silence and heavy chain, so as not to get hurt, mother, and not to die in vain. May the tears of your neighbors have mercy on me when I sharpen my eyes, tighten my heart with immediate echo, and die smiling other time tomorrow, knowing that there is no strength in this poem to venture into range and to incur the meaning and bear the burden of deadly possibilities, purification, afflicted on the ground by the deformed tenderness, the one we cry on its antagonistic chest, we call home. I know there is no help for the poet of the poem, nor sleepiness to take from its night. If something that does not have a cosmic end must die, then we'll know it through whether the implicit eternity is death in this spiral path over time. Eternity is tested and hangs high in the wailing of the country of the generous people, a series of epileptic cities and horrors that, in fact, make eternity eternal and infinite in the imagination of the epistemological infatuation. The path is being tested. There is no help for the poet of the poem to escape from the panting of the earth. Confused, as if the earth was churning out from its axes to consume, that then is the mother of the lost causes, the burner of the fragile question, the duster of the bare heads. And the last picture of poetry while he was ignorant of what he had done. And he runs between the ravages of hatred, falls late and bewildered. I will not die here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, David. What a beautiful rendition in English. I would also just like to make a correction that I Will Not Die Here was actually translated by Momin Omar and Melaaz Bابكر. So that was my mistake. And next we actually have the poet who wrote that beautiful poem that David just read in English. So Khalid Omar Ibrahim is a Sudanese poet born in Medani. He's a father of 2 daughters and 2 sons, and he studied philosophy at the University of Cairo in Khartoum, Al-Nilan, and then went on to do postgraduate studies in folklore at the University of Khartoum. He resides in the United Arab Emirates and works in the banking sector. Khalid has written and contributed to many literary journals and anthologies and newspapers. And in addition, he has 3 collections of poetry and a folkloric study that are forthcoming in publication. Thank you so much for joining us.
التحيات طيبات لجميع الحاضرين، زاكيات للغائبين. سنقرأ شعرا واللحظة هي الأكثر عنفا وفظاعة فيما يتصدى له بثبات الشعب السوداني الآن في مسار ثورته المستمرة الظافرة بإذن الله وبقوة إيمانه بنفسه. شكرا. أنا لن أموت هنا. أنا قبل ما أقرأ النص عايزك يا رفيف والمترجمين يشكروا الفنان الشاعر اللي قدم هذه الترجمة في عرض مسرحي كامل، وأنا فرانكلي اضطربت لتقديمه لهذا النص بهذه الطريقة المعبرة بالفعل. يعني شكرا له ولكم. أنا لن أموت هنا، أنا ميت سلفا هناك في الجزيرة عند منعطف العروج إلى حقول الذرة الرفيعة والعدار الكث تحت ظل غمامة رحلت على وعد سرابي الهطول، حيث العصافير الغريبة غمست مناقيرها في الحبر ونكرت سرتي، والليل أرخى حاجة سرية وأسدل اسمه السفلي سترا زائفا على حاجاتنا، فانكشف القمر حيث الزوايا فتنة بظلالها، والباقيات من التمني في الحقيقة لا أثر. وبقيت مرتبكا في صميم الوقت مشتبكا بالفضاء الرحب والشجر العمومي البسيط، أخصف نيتي في كل درب وأجتنب التأمل مثل عدوى في الرحيل. أختصر المسافة بين خطوي وكسبه، بين حزني وحسه، بين طول محياي وخلسة الموت الجميل، في غبار عالق على هدب المصادفة العنيفة، وهي تفتك بالتوقع عنوة لتزيح أوهام الرؤى وتفض صمت المستحيل. أختصر المسافة بين مرتجع الصدى ونقيضه في أي شيء منكر كالومضة السحرية الفوقية التحتية ما قبل برد الحجز بعد هنيهة السهو القليل. ثم أختزل المسافة بين مرتجع الصدى ونقيضه في أي شيء منكر كالومضة السحرية الفوقية التحتية ما قبل برد الحجز بعد هنيهة السهو القليل. ثم أختزل المدى في النقطة العمياء ضربة لازم لأقول ما تجد القلوب في خفقانها وأميل حيث تميل. ومهما يكن من أنه لا بد من هلك لهذا القهر، فلست شهيدا ولست وحيدا، لست لهذا المسير القتيل البديل. أنا ميت سلفا هناك حيث أوقف الشعراء قافلة القوافي وقدموني مخيرا بين الشهيد أو الشريد. أنا ميت سلفا هناك حيث أوقف الشعراء قافلة القوافي وقدموني مخيرا بين الشهيد أو الشريد. فسألت أمي ماذا ترى لو أنني جانحا هكذا للسلم، أشد حيلي وأختار نافلة الكلام علي أوثق للنشيد المر في تاريخنا الشفهي مثل أبي على أيام الثورة الصماء في عهد خليفة المعروف بالصمت الحديدي الجريء والزرد الثقيل، حتى لا أضام يا أمي ولا أموت سدى، حتى لترحمني دموع جاراتك حين أشد باصرتي، أشدد بالصدى الفوري قلبي وأموت مبتسما في المرة الأخرى غدا. وأعرف أنه لا حيل في هذه القصيدة أن تغامر في المدى وأن تتحمل المعنى. أعرف أنه لا حيل في هذه القصيدة أن تغامر في المدى وأن تتحمل المعنى وتحمل عبء تلقية اشتمالات ضروس يكابدها على الأرض الحنان الشائب القسمات الذي نبكي على صدر يناصبه العداء وندعوه الوطن. أعرف أنه لا حيلة لشاعرها ولا سنة لتأخذه من ليلها إذا ما كان لابد مما ليس منه نهاية كونية ليموتها، فيعرف عبرها ما إذا كان الأزل الصريح في هذا المسار اللولبي على الزمان يمتحن الأبد ويعلق عاليا في مبكى بلاد الأكرمين سلسلة من مدائن صرعى وأهوال ستجعل الأزل الأبيد اللانهائي في واقع الأمر وفي مخيلة الهيام المعرفي هو المسار الممتحن. لا حيلة لشاعرها وهو يهرب من لهات الأرض مرتبكا كأن الأرض قالعة من محاورها لتشربه. تلك إذن القضايا الخاسرة ومحرقة السؤال الهش من فضة الرؤوس الحاسرة وصورة الشعر الأخيرة وهو يجهل ما قضيته ويركض بين ويلات إحا فيكبر حائرا متأخرا. أنا لن أموت هنا، أنا ميت سلفا هناك. شكرا شكرا شكرا.
شكرا جزيلا. Thank you so much to the poet Khalid Omar Ibrahim, and I'd just like to pass on the thanks that he gave earlier in his introduction to Dr. Modi for a great reading of the poem in English. It was beautiful to see the poem in both languages. Thank you so much for this.
ليلهم الخوف والكوابيس والخيانة، ليلهم الخوف والكوابيس والخيانة. نحنا قدامنا الصباح، نحنا قدامنا الصباح.